The next topic is there's some very interesting stuff happening in Niger. Specifically, that they're very concerned. So, obviously there was the coup in Niger. It was a successful coup.
Yeah.
And now Niger's junta is concerned about an invasion threat from other Western-backed countries that are around it. And I think that's not an unfounded concern for them.
That's an ECOWAS. ECOWAS is the economic economic cooperation.
Yeah.
No, ECOWAS, Economic Organization of Western African States.
I have it. Economic Community.
Community
of Western African
States.
It's a bit of a mouthful for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the big concern with that is that, believe it or not, the deadline is on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, now they changed it to Sunday. So basically what the ECOWAS wants to do is trying to intimidate Niger. Where the problem with that people in Niger, people there.
Yeah.
And by the way, do you know who is now in Niamey, the capital of Niger?
Who specifically?
Victoria Nuland.
Is she really?
She's there. Yeah.
What a surprise.
Yeah, I had to confirm.
That's very interesting.
That one. And she is, let me share this with you guys. So
please.
You see.
So as you're doing that, David, so ECOWAS, I wanna sort of make clear who all is in ECOWAS.
Yeah.
This is Benin, Burkina Faso, Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. Yeah. So this is very, very interesting because the reality is that a lot of those countries, quite frankly, do have a very massive Western influence inside of them. And after you share this, there it is.
Right there. And what it says right there, I read it to you guys. Victoria Nuland in Niger's capital and requested to see the detained former president Bazoum. Her request was denied by the military junta. Yep. So she is there. But here is the big question. And her arguments, and I'm going to put this to you also, guys, because the reason we do these live streams is to have you involved as well. Your opinion matters.
Yeah.
So here is one of the things she was requesting. She was asking the reinstatement to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum as the democratically elected. Yes, he was elected. But here is the thing. How come we are saying, oh, we need to restore the democratically elected Mohamed Bazoum in Niger, but we couldn't say that in Ukraine when we removed the elected president?
Absolutely.
See what I mean? That's the double standards. Second, Niger now, the military, they're saying bring it on because France is threatening Niger. Well, why is France threatening Niger?
Well, France has quite a lot of interests in Niger.
Two main ones. Gold.
Yep.
And uranium.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Any light bulb in France is made through uranium from Niger.
Yep.
Second thing, how much do you think France sells uranium per pound? Give me a number. Let's guess.
Oh,
Just give me a number.
I don't know.
Just guess. Give me a number. Doesn't matter.
A lot.
1 pound. 1 pound. Just
300,000.
No, that's too much.
Okay.
They're selling that for $238 a pound.
Oh.
How much a Niger worker who's working in that make?
Oh my God.
$11.
Yeah.
$11. France selling it for $230.
Yeah.
Third element to all this. Why is this hypes about all France is it? It's because some countries in Africa still till today, their money, paper, is printed in France.
Yeah.
Not in Africa.
Which is ridiculous because that's a stranglehold on money.
Exactly.
It's a stranglehold on the financial system of these countries. And a lot of these countries have been kept down economically
for a reason.
Yes. So for $11 a day, a worker can go and produce basically what's a profit machine for France. And that's not different, right? It's not different here.
Well, we have it here with Nike, for example.
Yeah.
I'm not against Nike. I don't buy Nike, but
Yeah.
I'm not against Nike. Adidas does it. All those top brands. You know how much it costs a Nike shoe to make in Southeast Asia? Because that's where they have them,
like
in Bangladesh.
$1.50
somewhere
maybe.
around that. You add the cost of the freight, you add the cost of insurance. So if we are to think the shoe cost, let's say $30, I will go as far as $50.
Yeah.
How much did they sell it here? 200 plus. Because that athletes in America that has his name on will have to get his share.
Right.
That's why I kind of like, I explained to my own, like, do you understand how this shoe is made?
And they don't. People don't.
And those kids in the Southeast Asia are working 12-hour day for about $1.
Yeah.
I know its business is harsh the way and not just I'm not picking on Nike. Adidas does it. Puma does it.
Most people do. Most companies do it. And it's interesting also because this is a big thing that's coming up here in the United States, is sort of a groundswell, because we here also have that problem with workers here. If you go to Amazon just quelched not that long ago an attempt at unionization.
Oh yes.
Because Amazon employees don't necessarily get paid very well. If you look at Walmart doesn't pay its employees well enough. There's a large section of Walmart employees that are still on welfare, that are still getting food stamps, that cannot afford to have their own house. There was, I remember reading an article, I haven't been able to find it again, and this is probably for a reason, but I remember reading an article where Walmart was bragging about how many homeless people it employed.
Yeah.
If your employees are homeless,
that's a problem.
There's a problem.
Problem.
And the cost of everything is going up. And so people here are starting to wake up to the fact that this has been going on around the world for decades.
That's true. Let's say thank you to Hong Wan. Thank you so much for your super sticker. You wrote the US hides behind freedom of navigation, but when it comes to China and Russia, they use the UN, I think that's the law of the sea. The law, yet they haven't signed the agreement. That's true. That is true, Hong. Thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. So let's go back to Niger idea. So where do I see the big issue? Well, the big issue, not the big issue, but rather the shift that is taking in Africa. Remember a couple months ago, I mentioned that Africa is going to become the geopolitical ring by which major power is going to be displaying, like the competition is going to get even fierce. Well, you got now the young president of Mali, if I'm not mistaken, or Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore.
Yeah.
He was a captain, by the way. You know what he just did after he took over power?
Well, he's siding with Niger.
But what else he did? That's a lot of people do not know. He gave up his salary as president. He just gave it up.
Yeah.
And he's saying now,
I have a lot of respect for that.
He's fierce. I can just see, I'm a former military. We know what to look for.
Yeah.
He's one that will challenge France or whomever.
Yeah.
And now he's saying he's going to fight alongside Niger. Burkina Faso is going to fight alongside Niger.
Yeah.
Algeria even. Now Algeria sent its troops to the border because they're border with Niger.
Right.
So, but Algeria has a different calculations. And that calculation has to do with France. Because France is threatening to, it's like we're bringing on.
Yeah.
This is why now the West want to use the ECOWAS, because they are Africans, but they're getting heat from the locals.
Right.
How can you turn on your brother?
Right.
That's how they're looking at it.
Yeah.
It's because the ECOWAS, it's under the Western. This is why Victoria Nuland is in Niamey, the capital of Niger. That's why she's there. This time around, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because you get the young leadership now in Africa, like Ibrahim Traore.
Right.
They're seeing things differently. The whole coup, why it happened to begin with, is because that president, Mohamed Bazoum, hasn't served the people. Yes, he was democratically elected.
Yeah.
But when people are still living in poverty, and you have massive wealth under your ground, and you're not benefiting from it, what the heck are you doing?
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why. And I think if ECO was thinking of intimidating Niger, that will be a mistake because they will be ready to fight.
Yeah.
Let alone there is the big wild card. You know what the big wild card is?
What?
Wagner Group.
Yes,
Is,
I was
is
about
be-
to bring that up.
yeah, is
Absolutely.
being called in because of request. And Russia also has to think about access to resources.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, now the French president, Emmanuel Macron, said to Niger, we're going to stop the aid.
Yeah.
You know, what was no, he said that to either Burkina Faso or to Brahim Traore, the young captain.
Yeah.
I wish I had a picture of him, but anyway, what he returned and said, hey, you keep that aid. We don't need it. Simple as that.
Well,
the U.S. threatened also to cut off the aid.
Yeah.
The aid. You know what that general said from Niger?
Yeah.
He said, "Why don't you, to the U.S. Why don't you use that aid to alleviate homelessness in America?"
Yes, which is not wrong. That's not wrong. And you know what I think is interesting is all of this is coming, and this is not being talked about in the West when this topic is being talked about. The Wagner Group. How much now infrastructure is being built up all over Africa by China and Russia.
That's true.
By China and Russia purchasing these mines and putting investment into the communities. Now, do I think China and Russia are doing it out of the goodness of their heart? No. I think they see what everyone else sees.
It's investment.
That it's investment.
But at least on equal footing.
At least it's in a way that raises people up instead of holding them down, which I think is the big issue that globally people have with the United States is, and it's not the people here in the United States are good people, but we have embarked on policies globally that have been designed to keep people down. And I can tell you that's true because look at the state of Africa with all the aid it's received. With all the aid it's received, you have people living in extreme poverty. It's been getting aid for decades. And what good has that done it?
Yeah, but also not just the aid, but also is the access to their resources that they are not benefiting from, because it's the Western world that is having access to. The history of Africa, from the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Belgians, the Germans, the French, of course, and some time us as well. So the whole history of Africa, it's very dark when it comes down to the presence of why. Because I mean, you look at it just like for the idea of France declaring itself as the fourth in the world when it comes down to gold. With 4,000, I even memorized the number. 4,062 tons of gold. Well, how can you do this when you don't even have a single mine in France? So where that gold came from? It
That's
came
a
from
great
those
question.
countries. That's simple as that. So, and this is why I believe this recent coup in Niger will be a geopolitical turning points in Africa trajectory. It's going to change the dynamics upside down. And the other African countries that's still thinking with the Western mindset, they're going to wake up to the reality. As a matter of fact, they're going to be faced with some harsh reality moving forward.
Well, so it's very interesting that you're talking about the other African countries because, this is from March, but Representative Matt Gaetz, he during a hearing, he asked some very poignant questions about U.S. military training and interventions all throughout Africa. It's actually, in its own way, very cathartic to watch this. Let's show him, basically show how ridiculous this situation is. I'm going to add it. Okay. We can
General
hear it
Langley, I have constituents that have been scattered across Africa on train and equip missions. So just ballpark, in the last decade, how many Africans has the United States military trained and equipped?
Congressman, I don't have that figure. I can get that figure for you.
Ballpark, just, how many?
Congressman, it would be a wild guess, right?
Seems like something we should know, right?
Over the years,
sure does.
We have trained a substantial number, especially in the Gulf of Guinea states, but and including
Like more than 10,000?
It is more than 10,000.
More than 50,000?
I'd say we're reaching around 50,000 at least.
And what percentage of the people we've trained end up participating in insurrections or coups against their own government?
Very small number, Congressman. Very small number.
So what percentage do you think?
I'd say probably less than 1%.
But it does happen.
The IMET program is in force, and we've pushed a significant number through our schools across the.
Yeah, and what data sets do you track to arrive at the conclusion that less than 1% of the roughly 50,000 that we've trained have participated in coups? Because it'd be like about 500, about 1% of 50,000.
Congressman, you may have that information. I don't at this time, but I know.
Well, I know there are some, right? Like go ahead and throw up that image. This is Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, and this is a photo of him. Did we train and equip him?
Yes, we did.
In Guinea?
By name, I cannot identify that.
Well, that guy in the middle with the big red hat, Colonel Mamade Doumbouya, that's him with a bunch of U.S. service members outside of our embassy. And just months after this photo was taken in 2021, he led a coup in Guinea and threw out the leader. Does that concern you?
Congressman, core values is what we start off with in IMA programs.
Do we share
core values?
Yeah. So you guys got the idea of, and yes, we do have a presence. I was in Djibouti, and we do have a presence there and so forth. But beside all this, is the idea. Oh, let me say thank you to Raphael.
Oh, Raphael, it's nice.
Raphael,
to see you.
thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So the idea of how now, I think this, like I said earlier, this is going to be a turning point, geopolitical turning points when it comes down to, because it's now or never for those African, especially young leaders.
Right.
Because for the guy to take over power and give up his salary, he could be on for some good thing.
Yeah.
Are we going to allow that or let that happen? This is where those dynamics is going to be. France is now willing to let go because France has access to that. As I mentioned last time, still till today, France still gets about $500 billion in colonial tax.
Yeah. That's a lot.
We're in 2023.
Yeah. Well, and where does that take that money out of? Right. It takes that money out of countries that actually really desperately need it. They really desperately need that economic boost. Yeah. And I think, what was sort of revealed in this hearing, and this was in March, right? So, this isn't new. This isn't sort of a new issue, but, looking at the situation and having basically the government be like, oh, well, I don't have this information. I don't have this information. No. And the amount of, it was literally what he's talking about is the amount of African soldiers basically that have been trained and then somehow participate in coups, even if that number is 500, that's a lot.
Still problematic. Yeah.
And so it leans itself towards something much bigger that's happening. And that is sort of the revealing of how much secret influence there really is in the world. And I want to bring that up because this isn't a, people who go outside the mainstream narrative are often really ostracized for it until it comes out as true. And recently, a lot of the sort of fringe or conspiracy type theories, a lot of them have started coming out as true.
Yeah. Well, the whole Africa situation, it's about, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of corruption in Africa.
Oh my gosh.
Let's also be realistic, because we can't just assume that just because of this, no, this could work out or it could not.
Absolutely.
Like what it was back in history. If you look at a history of, for example, I remember a guy, it was a colleague of mine I worked with. It was in Washington, D.C., and it was originally from Sudan.
Yeah.
And he shared a story with me that I didn't know. Did you know that back then, and I wish I could have looked at the name for that, but he used to be a general who conducted a coup in Sudan. Took over.
Yeah.
And once the dust settled, you know what that general did?
What?
He turned over power to a new civilian government.
Yeah.
The reason why he did the coup is to save the country from internal,
Right.
like the social, ethnic, and all that, because Sudan is also tribal society.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ethnic groups. That reminds me of India,
Yeah.
for example. And he did the coup to save the country. Once the dust settles, he turned over power.
Mm-hmm.
Could this Ibrahim Traore, the
Yeah,
young guy,
maybe.
do it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Right.
One thing that I am certain of is that they're gonna stand up to the West,
Yeah.
either win or die.
Yeah.
That's how they're gonna look at it, because to them, time is now. No more exploitation of Africa.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I think it's very interesting timing, especially considering the amount of investment that is being poured into Africa from Russia and China. I think that's worth noting.
Indeed.